Everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I welcome you all on behalf of CFA Society India. My name is Deepak Mundra, one of the volunteers at CFA Society India. At my day job, I work as Valuation Services Manager with KP Synergies. Before I introduce our speaker, I have a couple of housekeeping notes. First, today's session is scheduled for 60 minutes, including Q&A. Q&A session will be after presentation. We have kept chat box and Q&A box open where you can post your questions during the session. Request you to post question only at one place to avoid any duplication. During the session, Mr. Sahani, when Mr. Sahani wishes to engage with you, Harshad will give you access to audio to ask questions directly to Mr. Sahani. For that, you can click on raise hand option at the bottom and Harshad will give you access. Due to time constraint, we may not be able to take all the questions, but we will try to accommodate as many as possible. Mr. Sahani has kindly agreed to share presentation, which we will be sharing in the chat box after presentation concludes. Last, your feedback is very valuable to us, so please complete evaluation survey before you sign off today. Now, I would like to introduce today's topic and our speaker. As you all know, today's topic is Achieve Your True Potential. Last time when I heard Mr. Sahani, he used the term VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We have experienced this VUCA word in last 1.5 years. In such an environment, it's natural for anybody to become stressful, which can be harmful to us personally and professionally. However, what matters is how fast we can get through stress. To understand how to manage stress and overcome it, we have with us Mr. Sahani. Mr. Sahani have had long association with CFA Society India starting 2013. Deepak is an executive coach and storyteller. He has more than 1,500 hours of experience coaching senior management across the globe from diverse industries. Prior to starting his journey as a coach, he also held leadership roles with companies in energy and banking and financial services industries. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Deepak Sahani. Mr. Sahani, over to you.
Thank you so much, Deepak. And it's a pleasure holding this association for now about 8 years. And I always love to come back and talk in your webinars for the reason that I believe that as a society, as a group, there is a lot of positive intentions in helping the community that you all serve. And that gives me a lot of joy because I'm in a business where I want to help people to shine better, to become better. And the subject of your webinars, as far as I'm concerned, help you do that more and more. So it's a joy and a pleasure, also an honor to be once again here. Our topic today is achieving your true potential. Now, if you have to look at potential, I want you to all of you to go back home today, or if you are at home, open up your album and look at your picture when you were 5, 6, 7-year-old, a smiling picture of yours. That was that person who had that potential. Over the years, with a lot of new habits that we have acquired, new learnings we have acquired, new experiences and new beliefs, we have not let that potential flower. We have not let that potential become a reality. We are ourselves holding us back from reaching that potential. And what can we do now to be able to start scratching the surface of that potential is important. And that's what I'm going to cover today with you. So let me begin by engaging with you. And at this stage, I would request 1 or 2 responses to each of these questions that I'm going to ask you on screen. And like Deepak Mundra said, Whosoever wants to respond, raise your hand, and we have a colleague, Harshad, who would unmute you and you can speak up. Maybe one or two responses. So let's go with this first one. What is the relation, do you believe, is between potential and stress? I want one or two responses. If you can raise your hand, please do that. And if you feel comfortable putting it in the chat box, please do that as well. Preferably speak up. What do you think is the relationship between potential and stress?
Hi, Kamili. I have unmuted you. You can ask the question.
I think, yes, for me, it is like every risk is an opportunity. So that's the way I read the statement that you have put. So there'll be stress that I have to go through to make it an opportunity and success, but that's what risk offers.
Wonderful, Kamili, because you seem to be saying it's the other side of the coin. If you want to reach your potential, you may have to experience some stress, and that's part of the game. Am I right?
That's right. That's right, Deepak. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Wonderful insight, wonderful perspective. Anyone has one more response? What do you think is the relationship between or relation between potential
Rishi, Rishi, I have unmuted you. You can ask the question.
Hi, Deepak. So I think when your potential, what you feel your potential is not realized, and you're doing something, then you feel stressed while doing it.
Wonderful. So the gap between where you want to be and where you are, if it is on the negative side, could be the connection of could be where the stress is caused, right, Rishi? Great. Thank you so much, both of you. Let's look at another question. What triggers stress? I want some other people to respond other than Rishi and Kamili. First, opportunity to others. What triggers stress for you? It's very unique, it's very individual, it's different for different people. So what triggers stress for you?
Gaurav, I have unmuted you. You can ask the question. Gaurav, we can't hear you. Okay, I think Gaurav Bhattija having some issue. Can someone else raise the hand to unmute?
What triggers stress?
Hi, Pankaj Agarwal, over to you.
Yes.
Naveen says in the chat box, the gap between expectations and real outcome causes stress. Thank you, Naveen. Let's hear from somebody else also.
Also the environment which you are in, if it's a highly competitive environment and you feel you are not achieving what your peers or your colleagues are able to do, then it also causes this stress.
So some bit of a competitiveness for you,
yes.
Somebody doing better than you could cause you stress. Okay, it's different for different people. Remember that it's not uniform. It's not the same for everybody. Thank you, both of you, Naveen and the gentleman who just spoke. Yeah. Great. Let's look at another question. So what do you notice when you experience stress? When I say notice, what's happening to you mentally, physically, emotionally? When you experience stress, what do you notice happening to you? Again, some responses, very unique because different people will notice different things. Panic. Manik says panic. Ahmed says short temper. Yeah. Anyone else? You can put in the chat box if you're comfortable. Sweating, short temper, headache, breathing becomes shallow, irritable. Yeah. Okay. So is it fine to say that when you experience stress, there are enough and more evidences available to you in the form of reaction from your body, from your mind, from your heart, that you know I am under stress, right? And that's important because the dangerous thing is when you are under stress and you don't even know. So the question therefore is when your body, your mind, your heart is giving you signals, what should you do? Should you stay there or should you take some corrective actions? Remember, you cannot control stress. What you can control is how do you respond to stress? because stress is initiated by probably uncontrollable things around you, right? Your expectations and outcomes. You do your best and still the outcomes don't meet the expectations. Now that can cause you stress, but that's okay. That stress will be positive if you channelize it well. But if you don't do anything about it, that stress will start eating you up. It will not allow you to ever come back and be that person who is out there to achieve what you want to achieve, right? And like Deepak said earlier, I will say a lot of things. Anytime any question comes to your mind, I may not be answering right now because I will only seek responses to my question. Start putting it in the Q&A box, right? So stress is on us. I'll give you an example. This example is a sage guy asked somebody that if somebody sort of an arrow hits you, in olden days there were these arrows. If an arrow hits you on your shoulder, how much will it pain? And he says it will pain a lot. It will pain a lot. He says, okay. He says if you remove the arrow and then put your finger in it, how much will it pain? And they said, much more than the first one. Life is like that. You cannot control the first arrow, but you can control the second arrow. Don't make it worse for you. And that's where we're going to focus, that when you experience stress and you notice stress through the response from your body, from your mind, from your heart, let's understand what to do. And I'm going to share 3 dimensions around that stress that will be helpful to you. The first thing we said is that our emotional, it's called the emotional quadrant. The security that we experience gives us a peaceful environment. The moment we don't feel secure is when we start feeling stressed. So if you're feeling secure and nice, you will experience certain emotions. And those emotions, just give me a moment, let me set my screen well. Yeah. Those emotions on one axis is high, and not in terms of negative or anger or things like those, but high energy. And then there is this low energy emotions, right? Those are what you're going to experience. On the other axis, you will notice negative emotions, which are anger and fear, right? And on the right axis, on the right side, you will experience certain positive emotions. So when you are working, you are typically in what we call as performance zone. What will you experience? What will be your emotions? You'll be calm. You'll be optimistic. Given a challenge, you will continue to be optimistic. You will feel challenged as in positively, which means you will not see it as an obstacle. You would see it as one more accomplishment to be undertaken. You will feel engaged and you will feel invigorated. It could be through the day. It could be parts of the day. It could be minutes within an hour. It could be not at all. But you would experience this performance zone through your day. Now, what really happens is that if we continue to be in this zone for a prolonged period, you may think, oh, it's okay. I'm calm, optimistic, challenged, engaged, invigorated. The possibility is, if you stay in this zone only, the possibility is that you may slip up. And if you don't want to slip up and get into those stressful periods or zone, what you have to do is you have to get into renewal zones. And this can be done during the hour, during the first half of the day, during lunchtime, during second half of the day, and on the weekends also. What are these activities? What are these actions? These are moments when you can be carefree. You're not worried about the next email. So which means if you switch off at 6, you are switching off probably your devices also. So that's from 6 to 7 p.m. in the evening, nothing distracts you. You are peaceful, you are listening to music. Maybe you are engaged in a hobby which you always wanted to do. You go out to play. You may be having a play with your kid. Do whatever. You are peaceful, which means maybe you go out for lunch with your friends and you don't take any official call. Even at work, you just talk home. You talk things which are personal and don't bring business into those pieces. You are relieved. You are mellow. You are receptive. You are listening well. And you are not engaged in any work-related thought process or actions. Now, our world today, and Deepak brought about the VUCA world. our work today has got shrunk. You know, our office is our home also, isn't it? So while it can be merging of performance and renewal zone, but I notice most of the people don't know when they begin the day and don't know when they end the day. They're always thinking work, work, and work. Now, if you continue to not differentiate between a performance zone and renewal zone by visiting it often, what is likely to happen? You are likely to slip into what we call a survival zone, which means you want to get through things. And it is characterized by some of these feelings you may experience. You may become impatient. Remember, some of you wrote that when you experience stress, how does it show up? Irritable, frustrated, angry. You may be angry at your family members. You may be angry at other person than the person who has given you that situation. You would feel defensive, fearful, anxious, and worried. Those are the evidences that you're getting into survival zone. And what survival zone means? I'm just about going through the day, going through the week, to look at another Monday and then another week. If you do not take care of your performance zone by frequent visits, frequent breaks into renewal zone. And renewal zone also is that maybe a weekend trip to a nature, to a location which is probably 50, 60 kilometers, not opening up your devices maybe through the day, maybe once or twice in a day, but staying away from those work-related issues. Now, what worse can happen? Worst can happen is that you are hardly in performance zone. If you are hardly in performance zone, which means you are not going in renewal zone. And if you're not going in renewal zone, you will end up in survival zone. And if you continue in survival zone with these feelings through the day, most of the time, then you are getting burnt out. And then these evidences appear. You may pick up some of these situations, how should I put it, states. You may feel exhausted. You may get up in the morning and feel exhausted. Through the day, when you come out of your bath, you feel exhausted. You feel empty. You're just going through the motions. Nothing excites you. Maybe even if an incentive comes from a workplace or some nice thing is cooked at home when you are having lunch, you just make it like everyday affair. You don't experience the happiness and joy. You stay mostly sad and hopeless. And what does hopeless mean? Hopeless means nothing is going to improve. Nothing is going to change. Life will remain like this or even go bad, worse than where it is. So essential message that I want to give you is, if you are experiencing any of the survival zone or burnout zone emotions in a very frequently or for a prolonged period, it is time to look at your life again and see how much you can get into renewal zone. Let me give you a simple example of a renewal zone. I don't know how many of you still go back to office and work, but when we were working in offices, we used to take a chai break or sometimes gossip break, coffee machine breaks. We will go to a colleague's place and talk about what we did last week or what I'm going to do this weekend, what movie I saw. And now, since we are not physically close to those people, we are in our home, we have nobody to talk to. We feel we don't have nobody to talk to, but you can still call up at lunchtime somebody on a call. You have your lunch and they have their lunch, and you can still crib and gossip and talk about something sundry other than work so that you remain carefree and peaceful in those moments. What stops you from walking if you have a lawn in your building or in your house? What stops you from walking on that and taking a call from there? Get into that renewal zone as much as often as possible to manage that stress. Otherwise, you are likely to fall into survival zone and then bottom into the burnout zone. A quick pause here for any question that you want to ask, or you want to put it in the Q&A box and I'll address it later, whichever way you feel comfortable. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things here. Jazz says fight or flight. Yeah, that's the response of a part of a brain. I will cover that in a moment, Jazz. Okay. There is something on my screen which is not closing. Yeah. Let me give you another dimension of our heart, body, and emotion. And that dimension is that what we can do is that if we want to stay in performance zone, we must often visit renewal zone. And you can do it. You have to do it very consciously, right? Thank you, Nagarjun. Question everyone in the chat box, right? Now let us look at one more dimension. This dimension is called zone of peak performance. And if you notice, there is performance and there is arousal. And our mind here, this part of the brain, can at best be sufficiently aroused and contribute to our performance for max of 75 to 90 minutes. Listen carefully. The zone of peak performance of this part of the brain is 90 minutes, not more. Don't indulge yourself in thinking, taking decisions more than 90 minutes. Don't have meetings longer than 90 minutes. Your energy, the contribution of this brain will come down. And when the contribution comes down, but the meeting continues, that becomes the triggers for success. And then you are moving into the survival zone. You get angry, irritable. You may snap at somebody in the meeting. You may become impatient. I'm sure you have experienced some of these things, right? So the trick is, if you are alone, if you are in a meeting, social situation, do not work on something to take a break after 90 minutes. It could be a 5-minute bio break. If you take a 5-minute break also, this part of the brain, when it is not thinking and working, gets recharged very quickly. It's unlike an iPhone, which will take 30 minutes to charge fully. It takes 5 minutes. So do not extend the arousal. The more you extend the arousal, drama and chaos will get created, and that will become the cause for your stress. I hope you are making your notes as we are going along, right? And that's the connection. So stay in performance zone, do everything in a block of 90 minutes. Why are people getting fed up of long webinars? Why were they getting it? Because initially there were 3 hours webinars, 4-hour webinars. What are you doing? You're looking at a screen. It's not just the screen, it is the fatigue here. You're supposed to be attentive all the time. What are people doing? They're switching off their videos because then they can do other things. Otherwise, if they continue looking dedicatedly for 2 hours, stress is getting created in various forms for various reasons. Yeah. Now, what is this part? This part of the brain does understanding. Something is thrown at them. Understanding happens here, called prefrontal cortex. Decisions are happening here. Recall means if you have to remember something from past, this part of the brain helps you. It goes back and brings it back. If you have to memorize something, it happens there. If you have to say no to something, it happens there. Inhibit. You have to say no to a rasgulla or a gulab jamun, it will happen. If you say no to somebody, this part of the brain, if it helps you only, then you can say no. Otherwise, default is yes. And this is where executive actions happen. It is very, very energy intensive. When I say energy intensive, means को ज़्यादा use करोगे तो energy एकदम drain हो जाता है. 90 minutes. It is small. It is so small that it is the size of a peanut, right? It thinks serially. It cannot do 2 things simultaneously. So don't try and write an email and start typing an email and talking to somebody and looking at somebody and do sign language with them. Don't try and do that. It does not work serially. It works sequentially, and it is very fussy. ज़्यादा तंग करोगे तो तुमको तंग करेगा. Right? It's very, very fussy. I told you. You keep it aroused for a lot of time, it will start to create chaos in your head. You will get fed up and say, I'm doing nothing and I'm going out and I'm going to not work for 1 hour. It is very, very fussy. So you want to take care of your emotions. You want to stay in the performance zone. Learn to use your brain well. Don't let it go beyond 90 minutes. 90 minutes involved or engaged. And if you have to do that, for 5 minutes, get into renewal zone. Get carefree. Go and crib, gossip, whatever de-stresses you, as they say. And then come back and be in performance zone. Don't do that. You're getting into survival zones. Okay. The second part of this is simple research by Dr. Roy Baumeister. He said, "Bada limited resources hain iske. So learn to use it well." Okay. The second one is, how do we sustain ourselves? And this is called the renewal quadrant. And it is to do with the body, the physical body. That also can cause stress, right? Here again, let us look at activities or activeness of the body, passiveness. There are some activities where we can stay passive but still are good. And also low octane. Low octane means low energy, low fuel, like they say. And high octane means high fuel. Let's look at the 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is energize. What will energize you? If you want to stay energetic through the day, what should you do from a body perspective? This is about your food, nutrition, and body functions. Have lean proteins. Have complex carbohydrates. What are complex carbohydrates? Complex carbohydrates take longer to get digested, and therefore carbohydrates give us energy. Am I right? And you need energy through the day. If you don't have energy in your body, you will not be able to perform the job. Even your mind will get tired. So take complex carbohydrates. Bread is an example, pasta is an example. Although from a health perspective, people say there is a problem in that, but maybe a brown bread, maybe a more healthier, nutritious pasta. So take complex because they give you longer energy for a long period of time. Do movement and exercise. Can you do your sessions? Can you do your meetings while walking on the floor or standing up? If you get a time, go and stretch yourself. If you have a TC table in your office, if you have your kid at home, you can play ball with them. Laugh. Laugh is the simplest, most effective way to stay energized. Can you laugh at simple things? Can you laugh if the system goes down? Can you look at the funny side of things? That will give you energy. Yoga, if you can do, great. Maybe if you have an office and you don't know how to do yoga, maybe 5 minutes of one pranayam or I don't know what are that asana, what is called Surya Namaskar, maybe 2 Surya Namaskar, and you will find yourself much more energetic in your body. Now, the challenge is that we are not taking care of ourselves, especially in the last 1.5 years from this perspective. In fact, there was some research which was thrown up on LinkedIn, which said, have people lost weight or have people gained weight and so on and so forth? I found more people have gained weight in this pandemic than they have lost weight, although they are at home, Now, if you don't do this, what is likely to happen? What is likely to happen is that you will like to have some spikes because energy to chahiye na? You need energy to work through the day. There are so many demands on you and you need your body to help you. So that's when you get into the habit of caffeine, chai, coffee, a lot of sugar, simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates is sugar itself, right? You take sugar and you feel energetic. So chini chai mein, coffee mein, donut kha liya, dessert le liya, because that gives you immediate energy. But remember, there is a flip side to it. It will give you a boost of it, then go down completely. Then you take another boost, then it goes down again. So therefore, look at your nutrition, how you are giving nutrition through food and through exercises to your body. Spike, continued exposure to spike diets or spike habits will continue to weaken your body, will not allow it the energy. And that's when you will start feeling stressful in any case. Now, if you continue on this, then you will slip into being numb. And these are some habits which come up. People start resorting to alcohol, sleeping pills, overeating, television, and painkillers. They are sar dard ho raha hai, bahut kaam kiya, sar dard ho raha, dawai kha lenge. Right? They are not going back to their habits to ensure that they don't have a painkiller. Right? Aaj bahut kaam kiya, let me have a drink. You are getting numb. Your body is getting numb. It's not giving you, you are not using your body to give you that energy in a positive way. And I don't know how many examples you have. I know many people that I coach who get into, partly into numb. Now, don't for a moment think that you can be only in one of the boxes. You could be an energized box, but that's half of the day. But later on of the day, maybe you are using a lot of spike, which means you have to do better in the energy box. Maybe by the end of the day, you feel numb, right? Doesn't mean that through the day you are numb, which means through the day you are drinking alcohol. No, by the end of the day, right? When probably you have one meeting left or nothing left, you want to reach home, you want to reach, whatever time you reach, you want to pick up a glass of whiskey, have it, and then have your food. These are evidences, these are signs that your body is under stress. And when body is under stress, it shows up in your head. Be careful. Yeah. Now, what do? Here, again, you need to get into chill zone. If you identify yourself not doing well on the spike and numb, get into the chill zone. Take regular breaks. Can I ask you if you put it into the chat box, all of you? How many hours have you slept on an average in the last week? Can you put in the chat box? Average for the last 1 week. Oh, these are respectable numbers. But even if you are 6, I would request you to take it to 7 hours. Sleep is very important, right? Now let us come to some of the other things. I told you about regular breaks. Yeah, do that during the day. Do that during the weekends. Maybe another 3 months of working, go for a vacation, maybe. Nap. Can you, if you have the place in office or at home, for example, since last 1.5 years, because I'm mostly at home, I have developed a habit of 20-minute power nap. I have my lunch. I'll go to my bed. 20 minutes, I will lie down on the bed. I may be sleeping for 10 minutes, but I don't leave my bed for 20 minutes. And then what happens is my 6 o'clock energy is way up than without that nap. Do not underestimate the power of a nap. Can you meditate? You can meditate in your car. You can meditate while you're in office. All you have to do is, maybe when you are in office and you're on a chair, just turn around. Don't face the door, and just close your eyes and sit for 5 minutes. Don't let anything disturb you. Just calm yourself down. Distract yourself from the emails. Maybe shut down your machine. Pull it down. Otherwise, the beep of the emails could be impacting you. Do that. Right? Go on vacations. Very important to nourish your body. And if you don't stay between energize and chill zone, you are likely to get used to some of these habits, which will give you spurts of energy, but over a long period of time start to damage your body and cause health issues, which can again become the cause of your stress. I hope you are able to relate to some of these things. For example, when I used to be in the corporate world, I used to work for a company 6 days a week. I'm 6 feet 3 inches. And when I joined that company, I was 98 kgs. I was overweight by about 6 kgs. I got into 6-day week. And we would go at 9, come home at 9. And when I would come home at 9, I would immediately eat something. And then later on at 10 o'clock, I'll have my dinner. 6-day week meant that on Sunday, you have to take your family out. I used to take my family out. I was not resting my body. Within 2 years, my weight went to 112 kgs. I became big fat man at that age, right? And it took me many years later to reduce that weight. And what was I doing? Eating food was becoming, I was taking a lot of spike and numb at office also, because I had a long day. We had a canteen where you could go and get any food. I would walk into canteens and I was taking nimbu pani. I was thinking I'm taking nimbu pani, but there was a lot of sugar in it. Now I realize all those habits which were showing up. We have to take care of ourselves, otherwise our body will stop taking care of us. So that's the second renewal quadrant. And the third one is what we call a self-expression. It is about our mind, right? Now, either we could be narrow in our thinking, or we could be wide, or we could be distracted, which means scattered all over, or could be absorbed, engaged inside. How do we manage it? Now, these are some signs that are called tactical zone, which means when you are here, your focus, your expression coming out from your perspective of your focus in your mind shows up. And you stay logical, analytical, very task-oriented, very precise and methodological, which means you get things done. That's simple, right? Because your mind is supporting, you are focused, there is a to-do list, there is a plan, and so on and so forth, right? However, this is a very proactive zone. Tactical zone is a very proactive zone. You are more in control. You are controlling your time. Time is not controlling you. But when you slip up from tactical zone, you will become shallow. Productivity may come down. You will become very impulsive, reactive, short-sighted. You will not even think long-term. And you will become intermittent. There will be no consistency in the way you go about doing your work. There will be a lot of randomness, chaotic randomness, which may show up. And reactive zone then, if you continue in this period or substantial part of the day in this period, would lead to scattered zone. And it means zoned out, indiscriminate, diffuse, overwhelmed, and connected with numb zone and connected with the burnout zone. All those start to play up in your day, start to play up in the way you go through the day. You feel overwhelmed. हर वक्त लगेगा आपको यार बहुत काम है. There's too much happening around me, right? Zoned out means what? You may not even know what you're experiencing. You're completely zoned out of that, right? However, again, what you should do is from the tactical zone, when you are in tactical zone, get into big picture zone. Spend time letting your intuition come to play. Be more open-ended, which means be exploratory. Don't just get stuck in what is on offer. Start to think of the big picture. Why is this happening? What more can I do? What else can be done? What may work? What has worked in the past? Be more imaginative. What all is possible? Where can we go? Where can all our potential take us? And when you start thinking big picture, that's when you will stay in tactical zone much longer. Why do we need big picture? Because ultimately our brain is expecting us to serve a purpose, a bigger purpose than just the role. And tactical zone is just the role. Why am I doing what am I doing? It's okay, I know what I'm doing, but why am I doing what I'm doing? How can I contribute more? How can I create better value? Is something that will keep us focused, less stressed. The moment we lose sight of the big picture, you will start to question, why am I doing it here? Nahi karte. And that's when you're getting into the zones which are not the preferred zone, the reactive zone and the scattered zone. Now, quickly, what I'll do is, one of the things that is required, if you are a leader yourself or if you have a team of people, train them and coach them. Because this big picture zone in mid-management and slightly senior management does not come easily. You have to teach people, you have to train people, you have to coach people. So engage yourself or with other people. Otherwise, a lot of people who want to change careers, right? Mujhe nayi job chahiye. They are typically in tactical zone. And when they get fed up in the tactical zone, they become shallow, inefficient. They want to rather change the job. They don't want to find happiness in the job, which they can find by getting into the big picture zone, but they don't. They get short-sighted. नौकरी बदलते हैं, शायद वहां पे जाके हमको अच्छा मिल जाएगा, better money, better role, better people. It doesn't happen. May not happen. They get very impulsive about it. They decide like that. So therefore, the need is when you work with coach, when you work with trainers, when you work with senior mentors, maybe they will help you understand that you are missing on the big picture, and that's when you will not get into those reactive zones that are on the screen. Yeah. So these are the three parts. Now, why that happens is, and somebody wrote in this, is that there is a part of a brain. I explained you PFC. Quickly, I'll explain the limbic system. Limbic system is the part of the brain where emotions are there, which is this part, right? This is your PFC. This is your right. And there is a piece here called amygdala. Amygdala is the size of a small nut, right? It is in our brain since our forefathers, when we were probably monkeys, right? What is the role of amygdala? Amygdala is constantly scanning the environment for risks because it wants to protect us. This is कोई risk नहीं आना चाहिए, protection होना चाहिए मेरा, उसका काम है. So what it does is it exaggerates some of the things, right? It has the tendency to do that, and it is good. However, we as human beings need to understand that this amygdala, by overprotecting us or making us fight, flight, or freeze, is not allowing us to reach our potential, right? That is important because once you understand that amygdala is pushing you in some area, you can manage yourself better. There is something in the chat box. Okay. Sorry. Right? So be careful that when you are sensing danger or fear, stop yourself and ask, is it real? Is it true? Am I making assumptions? Because a lot of potential achievement is limited by the stress created by the amygdala. It exaggerates maybe things for you. For example, Corona. Why do you think the stock market crashed in March last year? The first signs of Corona, people thought collectively, globally, the worst. And look at what happened to the market. Amygdala at play. Too much of risk involved, so protect whatever wealth you have. Sell, and conserve your money. That's amygdala at play, right? Now, amygdala is still at play. 2 COVID tests, 38 have COVID tests, don't travel, and blah, 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 right? Maybe it is exaggerated. Maybe it is not. Some countries are becoming very, very paranoid about COVID. Some, like India, is continuing to open up and do. Maybe there is some people who are still operating out of amygdala. Some are doing a very measured thing. So remember, amygdala could be causing some of these stresses in your life, around your career, around your work, around your relationships, many, many triggers of your stress, right? Missing trust in your relationships with your family and friends could aggravate amygdala. And then you will be wary, and that could become a cause of stress for you. I'm not getting into those areas because we don't have the time today, but amygdala plays a large amount of role in contributing. You know, you're fearing a job loss, exaggerated, मैं तो नौकरी से चला जाएगा, amygdala activated, all the fears are coming, causing stress to you. Your mind gets clogged. Your PFC is not available anymore. Your PFC has been hijacked by saying the worst, thinking of the worst, and it sort of paralyzes you. And then you stay in the state of stress for a longer period, right? So these are some of the things that I wanted to cover. And because just let me clear this, right? Our brain is designed where bad is stronger than the good. वो bad की तरफ ज़्यादा attract होता है, threat की तरफ ज़्यादा जाता है, reward की तरफ कम जाता है. It runs towards threats but walks towards rewards. And we have to be very conscious that this happens. And therefore, whenever we are seeing any threat, let us hold ourselves. थोड़ा hold करें, थोड़ा question करें, थोड़ा cool down करें, थोड़ा सोचें, थोड़ा reflect करें. Because that pause will allow you to move towards rewards. Every challenge, every problem can be looked at optimistically. Every problem can be reframed as a challenge. Say, what can I get from it? What more can I get from it? And that's when you will have a threat response or a reward response. And that's when your brain is supporting you, your body is energized, and you will be able to manage the stress associated with that situation, right? So before I close and answer your questions, which are in the Q&A box, I just want you to write down at your end, what is your key takeaway? And as you are thinking about your key takeaway, any question comes to your mind, put it in the Q&A box, and I will start looking at those questions now. Yeah. So as you are thinking, I am taking the first question. It says, due to work pressure, I'm continuously under survival and burnout zone. But if I take a break for a day or so, I fall behind in work, which again creates a lot of stress. How to break out of this loop? I don't know who this is. An anonymous attendee. It's called a vicious cycle. Anonymous attendee you are getting into. You will have to take the hit. So what you need to do, that if you're working with people, go and talk to them and say, look, I'm experienced this. And I believe that if I take a 2-day break and I come back refreshed, my mind, my body, my heart, then I will be able to better do it. And go and talk to them. What might be stopping you is amygdala. He says, how can I go and talk to my boss? What will boss think about me? He may think I'm trying to avoid work. I'm not a productive guy. I am running away from responsibility. All those fears triggered by your amygdala may be holding you back, right? So therefore, go and talk to the people who probably can understand you. If can't understand you, make them understand. Promise them that you will come back a different person and then get back into work. Although there will be a gap and that will pile up some work, fair enough. It's like this. If that is the case, then people should not build flyovers. Let us say there is 1 kilometer stretch, and today it takes about half an hour in Bombay especially to cross that because there are 4 junctions. What does the government do? Government starts to build flyover. When you're building flyover, what happens? That half an hour journey of 1 kilometer becomes sometimes 2 hours. Does it mean the government and people should stop making flyovers? They still make it because you're looking eventually at one day when this whole distance will take 2 minutes. Am I making sense to this anonymous attendee? If you can say yes or no into the chat box. I don't know who this person is because they're an anonymous attendee. Fair enough. I hope. Okay, thank you, Kapil, if you are the person who asked this question. How do people like Modi ji or Shah Rukh do with 3 to 4 hours of sleep? If you please ask them. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. You will have to ask them. Sorry for this. Okay, what is the solution for survival zone to performance zone? Pramod, the answer is simple. The answer is simple, Pramod. What you have to do is, if you can identify that you have gone into survival zone and you want to be more in performance zone, go to renewal zone. Because it's your inadequate time spent or inadequate activities in that zone which are not allowing you to stay in performance zone for long. Am I making sense, Pramod? If you can, and you can put it into the chat box if this answer is helpful to you. Otherwise, I'll try and give more response to it. Yeah. Okay. Then let's look at how many hours of sleep is ideal. 7 to 8 hours. And believe you me, when your mind is rested, you can do more. We always think the longer we work, the more productive we are. No, there was an experiment done at EY. Somebody asked for they have a tax season, okay? And in that period, this gentleman whose work I have used, his name is Tony Schwartz. So they went to EY, and in the peak tax season, I don't know which part of EY, US or somewhere, for 12 to 2, they gave them a break. They said, now go, do whatever you want to do. You want to go home, sleep and come back. You want to go for an extended lunch, have beer, whatever. Even want to eat a pizza, eat, but come at 2. You are not doing a working lunch, because in tax season, there is so much of work, people do working lunches, sandwiches and pizzas in office, and they continue working. And in tax season, they were working till 9 p.m. and maybe even longer. So they gave them 2 hours break. Now what happened? It's not just in one day. Over a period of 1.5 months, they found that they are, in spite of their 2-hour break, they are able to finish the work respectively by about 7-8 p.m. and go home. There was no overnight working, and there was no extended working beyond 7. And why was that? Because they were rested. Their mind was rested. Sleep does the same thing. It requires, you don't know from outside because this doesn't swell up. It requires to rest, and sleep is the medicine. Sleep is the reliever for this part of the brain. So importance of 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Take a nap also, probably whenever you get time. Okay, if office, I'm seeing in chat box, if office and seniors keep you in survival zone always, then what to do? First thing, Kapil, I believe is that we need to talk and promise them that if you allow us this, we will be more productive, and see what do they say, how do they respond. And if that also doesn't evoke any response, maybe you know the answer, that you may need to consider a change if required to another organization where people will at least listen to you. And I'm not saying that you will find that job or find that company, but you have to talk, because otherwise you are only transferring your problem from one organization to another. You have to talk where you are, to the people where you are, and promise them that things will become better. Okay, the questions are appearing randomly now. Huh? Okay, there is a question from Nagarjun. Does the zone of peak performance differ in the forenoon or afternoon? Wonderful question, Nagarjun. Our brain is well primed in the morning, because as we go through the day, the energies keep coming down of this part of the brain. This is the brain which is at work all the time. So that's why if you want to ensure that in the afternoon also, or in the forenoon, it remains at the same level, give it the breaks that I talked about, 90 minutes and break. Even if you're doing a long meeting, take a break. Don't say a working lunch. Bring in the food in the meeting room, but say 10 minutes, we are not doing nothing, just have food. Even that will energize people. Okay, take breaks. I'm getting lost now, if somebody can help me, because I'm seeing so many questions appearing and going, I don't know. So Kamili Alekha Nag says, what about people who are in jobs where there is extreme stress for a few months at a minute, M&A corporate? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that in the times when you don't have stress or work-related stress, are you bringing in the habits that we talked about from a performance zone perspective? Are you living with those for 8 months of the year, if not 12? Because that is settling down your mind to a lot of your heart and mind to a lot of stress which may come up. The second thing, like I told you, even in those high stress period, identify situations and moments where you can handle them, handle these better by taking breaks, maybe non-distracting lunch, going out for a walk, and 90-minute breaks. Maybe a 5-minute walk. That's what you do. Kapil, you can't do anything if you can't take an afternoon. An afternoon nap is not a culture, Kapil, anywhere. But if you have a cabin, can you lock your cabin and just take a 5-minute nap? Close your eyes. Tell your people that don't disturb me for 5 minutes, and you will find that you're more energetic in the later part of the day. Not everything that I'm saying would be possible, but you have to find ways to do what is possible rather than think this is not possible. Find out what is possible. Right? Okay, I'm lost now. Naveen Bhushan. Acha. Have I addressed all the questions? I don't know whether anybody can see it. I don't know.
Deepak, I think there are few questions related to amygdala. So,
Yeah, okay, I'll answer. How to suppress the amygdala at play frequently? You cannot suppress the amygdala. Amygdala is an auto mode. It is right now also playing in your head. A lot of people may be thinking asking question is a risk, right? Because what if my question is not considered a good question? Even that risk is stressed by amygdala, and amygdala may stop you. So how do you suppress it? You cannot suppress it. You need to manage it. So whenever you are in a given situation, amygdala will push you to be limiting yourself, restricting yourself, holding back yourself, right? It might start to create consciously or subconsciously feelings in you which are threatening, which are fearful, which are making you fearful. Identify those emotions. And when you identify those emotions, you will understand your amygdala might be at play. You want to get into a situation which is a conflict conversation. Amygdala will tell you don't get there because that fellow will overpower you, and you avoid that, right? And when you avoid that, you're creating stress for yourself. So go to your feelings. Your feelings will give you a sense of that your amygdala is kicking in. That's when you control. And when you feel that, always ask this forward question. What can I do? What can I do differently? What more should be done? What else can be done? Who I can go for help? What will help me? All forward questions. When you engage in this and this thinking process, that's when amygdala's impact will be come down and you will become more exploratory. You are starting engaging your prefrontal cortex. Your thinking happens here, Gaurav. So that's one response to amygdala. Any other question on amygdala? I don't know.
yeah, so one of that question said that because of adrenaline rush, so that keeps us hyperactive. Then how do we engage with amygdala to control that?
What is it? Adrenal rush.
Right.
Right. What is adrenal? Who's the person who asked this question? Because I can't see this question here.
Jaz Hiralal.
Hiralal, if you can open up your mic quickly.
The person has to raise hand, and
other question I have not answered. Deepak will connect with me and I will give those answers. Let's take this as the last question. Hiralal, is he there?
Jaz Hiralal.
Okay. What is adrenal? Adrenal is a chemical which pushes you to taking action, right? Now there are positive and there are negatives. For example, let us say you hit a car hits you. Okay. Now what will happen? Immediately your amygdala kicks in, right? And you get angry and you want to kill that person. Amygdala play a negative emotion. You have to understand that your emotions create actions, right? And that emotion will create an action which you will regret. If you go out and hit somebody, they will hit you back. You will get injured. You will get hit badly. Your blood may come out of your mouth or face, right? So adrenal rush in good things is good when you are taking positive actions. But when it is pushing you to take some negative actions, it may not have nice outcomes or pleasant outcomes. Understand your emotions at that moment. And if you understand that emotion at that time, and how do you do that? Remember one thing, and at your home, your mothers would have told you, ki jab bhi gussa aaye, 10 tak counting karo. Some of you may remember it, right? 10 tak counting karo. Why? Because what happens is, there are two parts of the brain. One is the logical brain, other is the emotional brain. So when something happens, our emotional brain gets kicked in immediately. And emotion could be fear, emotion could be anger, and so on and so forth. And that will push us to take action. It takes 6 seconds for the logical brain to come up. And that logical brain comes up when you delay your action for 6 seconds. Otherwise, what happens is, if you don't notice yourself in those 6 seconds, you will go and take a negative action which will have negative repercussions. So what do? Ask that question. What can I do now? What are the options to me? Who can help me? What is the best thing to do? When you ask that question, those 6 seconds will kick in. Then your logical brain will come in, and then you will get out of the car and you start discussing how to handle the aftermath of that hitting of the cars. Who will take care of expenses and insurance and so on and so forth. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not getting into too much of details, but remember this count till 10, especially when it comes to the negative side or amygdala kicking in to make you do things which may not have positive outcomes. Kapil is saying, please answer more queries. I don't know. Huh? Maybe another session is required for that, Kapil Mehra. I can't help it right now. But at least the question.
Deepak, one question you can answer, which is that since I think everybody is feeling that 1 hour session is not enough. So are there any books or any other resources which you can recommend?
Okay,
which can be useful?
The slide that I've shared come from a book. This book is called, what is it called? The Way We Are Working is Not Working. The name of the book is The Way We Are Working is Not Working. It's by a gentleman called Tony Schwartz. His research is there on this. Go and buy it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jitendra and others who are asking me questions. I've run out of time. We have kept 1 hour because we were told that people don't want to stay beyond 1 hour. That's why we kept 1 hour for this. Now it seems that people want more time. Unfortunately, can't. Am I right, Deepak?
So if you are okay, we can extend for 5-10 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes then. Is there a question that you will read out to me?
Sure, I will read out the question which Jitendra posed.
Yeah.
Just a minute. Okay, so how do we address the problem of information overload?
Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah. Have you heard of this term? FOMO. We are all experiencing FOMO, fear of missing out. Huh? There is so much of devices with us. We have to look at WhatsApp, now Telegram, and then Facebook, and then LinkedIn, and so many things. Yeah. Though some of these things are peak FOMO, absolutely. Yeah. So though what this FOMO bit is not really what I've covered, but it has to do with the world we are right now living, right? Because this world there's so much of happening. Now, if you go to this last quadrant that I shared, I'll take you quickly there. Here, right? The question to ask yourself is the big picture, because you are becoming very reactive in this moment. You don't remain logical. You want to see everything. You become shallow. You become inefficient, impulsive. A notification comes, you want to go there and see what's happening there. An email comes, you suddenly leave whatever you're doing. You want to read that email, even though that email is just an information email, right? So that's what is important, that you get into this big picture areas. That sit down one of the days and say, if I am distracted by information from X source or Y source, what is drawing me there? Get very open-ended. Ask for yourself this question. And if I spend X amount of hours, there are today productivity tools which will tell you how much time you're spending where. Is it giving me what I think it should be giving me? Or is it just taking away my time? It is eating into my time and therefore causing me stress. You have to become very, very deliberative about it. Ask yourself these questions. Look at how you are spending your time through the day. What is not giving you the value for the time that you are giving it? Who asked this question? I forget the name. Jitendra or somebody? Yeah.
Jitendra.
Jitendra, right? That's when you will realize. For example, for me, I realized WhatsApp is taking up a lot of my time. And then I sat down one of the days. It was not as bad as you are talking about in this message. Then I realized that it is the group messages which are always at the top. Group messages. So what did I do? I did two things. One, I went off notification. So even if the message comes in the last 1 hour, it is not going to beep for me. It's lying there, right? The second thing that the device came is disappearing messages, right? So I identified the groups which I am not too happy about. There were many groups I was happy about, some I'm not. I put those, what is it called, disappearing messages in that. If there is somebody who wants to talk to me, will talk to me personally on one-on-one window or on this. So when I started thinking like that, that's when I cut down that noise, that information overload, because every time it beeps, I will open up the phone. I will get distracted from an email or some session that I'm doing. That is the way I have done it. And that's what I'm suggesting to anybody. Look at what's happening, process it, and see whether it is giving you the value or not. And if it is not, take some actions to cut it out in whichever way it is possible. Yeah.
Okay, so we will take the last question. This is related to notion that early riser or there are people who are night people or morning people. Is there any such thing, or which is better?
Look, historically, from an Indian perspective, very Indian perspective, they say that, and now if you know keto diet and all those diets have come in, they say that if you can eat before the sunset in the evening and sleep by 9 and you have a good 7-hour sleep, there is no way you can sleep before, wake up by 4:30 or 5. It's not about 5 a.m. club or waking up at 5. It is about eating at the right time and sleeping at the right time as well. If you eat at 8:30 p.m. and sleep at 9, you're going to pile on a lot of weight on your body because the food has not got digested. They also say that the dinner should be done like a what is it called? Poor person, right? Like a pauper. Breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. Hardly eat anything, and that too before the sunset. Because the more your stomach is empty, it will allow the food to get digested so that you have a great movement in the morning. You have slept early, which means you have at least a 3-hour gap. If you are sleeping at 9:30, by 6:30 your dinner should be over. And that way you can keep your system clean. So it is all linked. Just don't look at a 5 a.m. wake up will make me better. If you sleep at 10 p.m., eating food at 9 p.m., 5 a.m. will not make you better. It is all, it's a cycle that one has to learn to adopt. Today, honestly, I am 55, 56. It has taken me so many years, but last 5 years, I have become a 7 p.m. dinner man, a 10 p.m. sleeper. I wake up at still 6. I complete my 8-hour sleep still and wake up. And I used to earlier feel groggy in the morning. You understand, groggy, which is even if I wake up, remember that exhausting thing we talked about? I used to be exhausted, tired, but not anymore. Because I have personally learned from all this and changed my lifestyle a lot in the last many, many years, especially the last 5 years. And I've lost my weight over the years. I have lost 18 kgs in the last 1.5 years, not last, 2.5 years. In fact, I've lost nothing much in the last 1.5 years because I achieved it, all because of these habits. So it's not just about waking up, it's about sleeping in time, it's about eating in time and eating the right thing. Everything is possible. We just have to do it. Everything is possible. We just have to do it. We have to first believe it can be done. Only then it can be done. If you believe ये तो मेरे साथ हो नहीं सकता because मेरा lifestyle different है, then nothing will happen. You will continue to live the same way. You will continue to cross that 1 kilometer in half an hour, 45 minutes. You are not stopping yourself to build a flyover. Need to build a flyover. This life is not working the way it is supposed to work.
Thank you, Mr. Sahani, for presentation. I think the last point was very critical for anyone who is thinking about managing stress, that we need to think that we can do it. For me, I think it was very, it gave me new perspective about the stress and how to manage it. I think two key takeaways for me is we should not trivialize or ignore it. And small things matter like power nap or chai or gossip. So with that, thank you very much. And as a reminder to participants, please complete the evaluation survey, which is in your chat boxes now. And CFA Society India members may claim professional learning credit by logging in their online professional learning tracking tool. And thank you very much for your participation and very active participation, I would say. And thank you very much, Mr. Sahani and participants. And at the last and but not the least, I would like to thank Vidhi and Harshad, who has done a lot more job behind the scenes than myself. So thank you very much. Have a very good evening